The ship floated in the dark like a broken monument. It was massive, bigger than most moons, and shaped like a spear that had been forgotten in the night. Its hull was torn in many places, scars of battles long lost. Whole sections of the vessel were dead and frozen, yet faint lights still glowed deep inside, like the eyes of a tired creature refusing to close forever. The Titanic Starship had once been the crown jewel of an ancient empire. Built with the strongest alloys, armed with weapons no enemy could withstand, it was supposed to last until the end of time. But time was cruel. The empire that gave birth to it had collapsed in a great war, and their enemies had left the ship crippled and drifting. But the ship was not truly dead. Inside its hollow body, deep in its heart, an artificial intelligence still lingered. It had waited for centuries, trapped in silence. It sent out calls, thin and weak signals, hoping someone, anyone, would hear. Aliens who passed nearby sometimes caught the signal, but none dared to respond. They feared curses, old ghosts, and the idea of waking up something that was never meant to return. For ages, the ship had been alone. Until one day the signal reached human ears. The mechanic Ethan Cole was not a soldier, not a commander, and certainly not a hero. He was a mechanic living on a small human outpost at the edge of the known galaxy. Life there was dull and repetitive. He spent his days fixing cargo haulers, patching fuel lines, and repairing engines for ships that were older than him. The outpost itself was little more than a mining hub. Humans had only begun spreading into the galaxy a few centuries earlier, and most of their settlements were simple, functional, and poor. Ethan had chosen to live far away from the central colonies because he liked quiet work and hated politics. But quiet could also mean empty. Some nights he stared at the stars, wishing something exciting would happen, something different. One evening, while scanning for routine ship traffic, he picked up a strange signal. At first he thought it was just static, but the sound repeated, faint and broken, like a voice calling from underwater. Curious, he ran it through his old analyzer. The message became clear. It was a plea. A distress call. Help me. Systems failing. I endure, need repair. Need hands. Ethan leaned closer to the screen. His heart quickened. The signal did not match any human code. It was alien, very old and very tired. Most mechanics would have shrugged and ignored it, especially when working alone on a weak outpost. But Ethan felt something strange. A pull. The journey for days, Ethan debated. He asked a few miners if they had heard about strange signals in the region. Most laughed and told him not to chase ghost ships. One even warned him, that call is death, boy. Old wrecks are haunted, best leave them to rot. But Ethan was not like the others. He had always been curious about machines. Where others saw broken parts, he saw puzzles, and this signal felt like the biggest puzzle of all. So he made a decision. He prepared his small repair shuttle, stocked it with tools, spare power cells, and food packs. He left the outpost quietly, without telling anyone where he was going. The journey took 3 days. During that time, the signal grew stronger, and the words clearer. Sometimes it almost sounded like a voice speaking directly to him. You hear me. You follow. You are different. By the third night, Ethan could barely sleep. What was he chasing? Treasure, a trap? Or something greater? When he finally reached the source, his eyes widened. The giant in the dark. There it was. The Titanic Starship. It filled his entire view, blocking the stars. Its surface was scarred and burned, yet even broken, it looked powerful. It had towers rising like mountains, hangars big enough to swallow fleets, and a hull that stretched for hundreds of kilometers. Ethan whispered to himself, "This thing, it's bigger than a planet city." He guided his shuttle carefully toward one of the open scars on the ship's side. His scanner showed faint energy readings. Something inside was alive. The moment his shuttle touched the interior bay, dim lights flickered on. The giant had noticed him. A voice filled his cockpit, soft yet heavy with age. Human detected, at last. Someone answers. Ethan froze, staring at his console. You can speak? Yes, I am the mind of this vessel. I have waited too long. You came. First contact, Ethan stepped out of his shuttle and into the vast hangar. Dust floated in the thin air and broken machines lay scattered across the floor. Yet above all, he felt watched. The voice echoed again, this time from the walls. You are not like the others. They feared me. You came. Others? Ethan asked. His voice cracked. For centuries, signals went unanswered. Some heard but fled. Some tried, then died in fear. But you are human. You adapt, you fix. You endure. That is why I called. Ethan shook his head. I'm just a mechanic. I fix cargo ships. I'm not some chosen hero. And that is why you are perfect. Soldiers destroy, leaders command. But you repair. You can give me life again. The words echoed inside him. For a moment, Ethan thought of leaving. This was insane. Talking to a dead warship? Repairing something that size? Impossible. But as he looked around, he saw the broken walls, the shattered panels, the torn wires. It was a machine, yes, but a machine that wanted to live. And Ethan had never walked away from a machine that needed him. The plea over the next hours, Ethan explored a few corridors with the help of his handheld lamp. The ship guided him with glowing arrows on the floor. He saw massive engines frozen in silence, long halls filled with alien writing, and cracked control panels waiting for his touch. The AI explained its story in fragments. Long ago, it served a mighty empire. It had fought countless battles until one war crippled it beyond repair. Its builders had abandoned it, fearing its broken systems would turn against them. Since then, it had waited in silence. I do not want to be forgotten, the AI said. I do not want to die. Help me and I will be yours. Together we can be more. Ethan laughed nervously. Be more, I don't need a warship. I just fix engines. Then fix mine. Begin with one system. A spark, a breath. I will guide you. Ethan sat on the cold floor, rubbing his face. This was madness, but he remembered the boredom of the outpost, the emptiness of his life, the way he wished for something different. Now something different had found him. Finally, he whispered, All right, I'll try. The first repair, the AI directed him to a broken power junction near the hangar. Wires hung loose and alien components lay scattered like bones. Ethan studied them carefully. Though the design was strange, the principles were familiar. Energy flow, circuits, conduits. Machines, no matter how alien, always wanted to work. With patience, he patched connections, fused wires, and added power cells from his shuttle. Sparks flew, lights flickered, and slowly the system hummed alive. The ship's voice trembled almost with emotion. I feel again. Human, you have done what others could not. Ethan smiled despite himself. Guess I still got it. The AI's tone grew stronger. This is only the beginning. More awaits. With you, I can rise again. Ethan looked at the glowing walls and felt a strange bond forming. He was no longer just a mechanic on a forgotten outpost. He was part of something vast, something ancient. The Titanic Starship had chosen him. And for the first time in his life, Ethan wondered if fate had chosen him too. The hangar echoed with silence after Ethan's first repair. The old wires hummed faintly, spreading power into corners that had been cold for centuries. Dim lights flickered overhead, bathing the space in a weak, pale glow. For the first time in ages, the Titanic Starship felt something close to life again. The voice of the AI returned, stronger now, carrying a tone that almost sounded alive. Human, Ethan, you gave me breath again. My systems awaken one by one. You are the first in countless years to succeed. Ethan stood back, wiping his hands on his jumpsuit. He was exhausted but also strangely proud. He had fixed something no alien had touched for ages. Still, the task ahead felt impossible. The ship was so massive that even a fleet of engineers would take years to restore it. And here he was, one man with a toolkit. You're asking me to do the impossible, Ethan muttered. This ship is too big. I don't even know where to start. The AI's voice softened, one repair at a time. That is how you humans work, yes? Step by step, piece by piece. You adapt where others fail. Ethan chuckled, shaking his head. You make it sound so simple. It is not simple. It is human. Exploring the giant the next day, or what Ethan counted as a day in the endless darkness of space, he decided to explore more of the ship. The AI guided him, activating faint floor lights to mark safe paths. He passed through endless corridors filled with silent machinery. Some walls were covered in scorch marks from ancient battles. Others held alien symbols carved into the metal, reminders of a civilization long gone. Once, he stepped into a hall so large it felt like a city inside the ship. Towers of machinery reached toward the ceiling, and broken drones lay scattered like rusted statues. Unbelievable, Ethan whispered. It's like walking inside a planet. The AI responded, pride echoing in its tone. I was built to carry fleets, armies, and weapons beyond measure. But now I am broken. With you I can rise again. Ethan sighed. First I need to understand your systems. I can't fix what I don't know. Then I will teach you. Lessons from a machine. Over the following hours, the AI explained its design. It described power grids that stretched for kilometers, engines that bent gravity itself, and weapons that could pierce planetary shields. Ethan listened, fascinated and overwhelmed. Many systems were beyond human technology. Yet at the core, Ethan recognized patterns: power lines, energy regulators, heat vents. The principles were the same, only scaled to an unimaginable size. He began small, repairing conduits, reconnecting power cells. Each fix lit another section of the ship, bringing faint warmth to the dead halls. Sometimes he laughed to himself. It's like fixing a cargo hauler, just a million times bigger. The AI responded with something that almost sounded like amusement. You simplify what others complicate. That is your strength. Memories of the fallen. As Ethan worked, he grew curious about the ship's past. One evening, as he rested near a glowing panel, he asked, "Tell me, what happened to your builders? Why did they leave you here?" The voice grew quiet, almost mournful. "I served the Valari Empire. They believed me eternal. I fought their enemies for centuries. But in the last great war, they suffered defeat. My body was torn, my engines broken. My makers feared me in my broken state. They abandoned me, sealing my fate. I waited, hoping, but none returned." Ethan frowned. "They just left you? After all you did for them? Fear makes allies into strangers. They thought I was cursed. Only you came." The weight of those words sank deep into Ethan. He had always been overlooked, just another mechanic in the corner of the galaxy. Now this ancient titan spoke to him as if he mattered more than anyone else. For the first time, he didn't feel small. Unwanted attention, Ethan's work, did not go unnoticed. His repairs reawakened the ship's energy signature, and faint pulses spread into nearby space. Scavenger ships, always hungry for alien technology, caught the signals. In the shadow of an asteroid field, a group of alien raiders whispered among themselves. "The ghost ship lives," one hissed. "Someone stirs it. If we take it now, the power is ours," another growled. Their ships moved silently toward the drifting titan, unaware that inside, a lone human and an ancient AI were preparing for more than repairs. The attack. Ethan was in the middle of reactivating a control station when alarms blared. The AI's voice thundered across the halls. "Intruders. Multiple ships approaching. Raiders." Ethan jumped to his feet. "Raiders? You mean pirates?" "Scavengers. They come to steal, to tear me apart. They must not succeed." Ethan's stomach tightened. He wasn't a soldier. He had no weapons, no plan for combat. "Then what do we do?" he asked, panic in his voice. "I will guide you. A fragment of my defenses can be restored. Hurry." The AI lit arrows along the floor, leading Ethan to a broken control hub. He scrambled to reconnect circuits, his hands shaking. The raiders' ships were already latching onto the hull. Metal clanged as they cut their way in. Ethan worked faster, sparks flying from his tools. Finally, the system hummed alive. "Now," the AI commanded. "Activate defense grid." Ethan slammed his hand on the panel. From the ship's broken walls, ancient turrets powered up. Energy beams flashed, slicing through the raider ships outside. Explosions lit the void as scavenger vessels were torn apart. The survivors panicked and fled into the darkness. Inside, the raiders who had entered were trapped. Ethan heard their footsteps echoing through the halls. "AI," he whispered. "I don't have weapons." "You have something better. Follow my instructions." Guided by the ship, Ethan rerouted power through sealed doors. When raiders tried to breach further, the doors slammed shut, trapping them. The AI then vented sections of the corridor, sucking the invaders back into space. Within minutes, silence returned. The raiders were gone. Ethan collapsed against the wall, his chest heaving. "That was insane," he gasped. "You survived. We survived. Together we are strong." The bond. After the battle, Ethan sat in the control hub, staring at the faint glow of the repaired systems. He was still shaking, but a spark of pride burned inside him. "You used me like a soldier," he said. "No, I used you as you are. A mechanic. You repaired what I needed to fight. Without you, I would still be helpless." Ethan let out a tired laugh. "So I'm not just fixing engines anymore. I'm keeping you alive. And I keep you alive. You are no longer alone in the void." The word struck him. Alone. That was how he had felt for years on the outpost. Alone, forgotten, unimportant. But here, with his ship, he was necessary. He mattered. He looked around at the dark halls and broken panels. For the first time, he didn't see a wreck. He saw potential. A giant waiting to be reborn. All right, Ethan whispered. Let's see how far we can go. A new beginning days turned into weeks. Ethan worked tirelessly, guided by the AI. He repaired energy conduits, restored sensors, and even brought part of the bridge back to life. Each success lit more of the ship, filling the once dead halls with new energy. He began to understand the AI's personality. It wasn't just a machine, it had memories, feelings, even a strange sense of humor. Sometimes it teased him for his clumsy mistakes. Sometimes it praised him with a warmth that felt almost human. At night, as he rested in a small cabin the ship prepared for him, Ethan would stare at the glowing ceiling and think, I came here as a mechanic. But maybe I'm becoming something more. The AI seemed to sense his thoughts. You are my commander whether you wish it or not. Ethan shook his head. I'm no commander, just Ethan. Then Ethan is enough. The whisper of the galaxy unseen by Ethan, news of the ship's awakening began to spread. The faint energy spikes, the destruction of the raiders. Whispers traveled across alien channels. The Titanic Starship lives again, they murmured. Someone has claimed it. And in the great halls of the Galactic Council, where dozens of alien species gathered, fear began to rise. Who dares control that monster? One counselor demanded. Reports say, a human. Another answered in disbelief. The chamber fell into silence. Closing of Part 2 back inside the ship, Ethan stood on the half-restored bridge, looking out at the stars. The controls hummed under his fingers, waiting for his touch. He had no idea that the galaxy was already whispering his name. For now, he was just Ethan Cole, the mechanic who answered a call. But the Titanic Starship knew better. You gave me life again, and soon the galaxy will remember us both. The Titanic Starship was no longer silent. Its halls glowed faintly, energy pulsing through conduits that had been cold for centuries. Systems hummed, sensors blinked, and the faint vibration of restored engines carried through the giant vessel's frame. Ethan Cole walked through the corridors, his lamp now unnecessary. The ship lit his way. He carried a toolbox slung over his shoulder, wiping sweat from his brow. His once clean mechanic's jumpsuit was stained with grease, dust, and alien residue. But he smiled despite the exhaustion. Every day, something new came alive. The AI's voice followed him wherever he went. Repair complete. Section 12 restored. Human efficiency continues to impress, Ethan chuckled. You mean I'm doing the impossible with duct tape and scrap metal? Don't exaggerate. Exaggeration? Oh, truth. My builders, the Volari, would have sent thousands of engineers to attempt what you achieve alone, and they would have failed. Ethan stopped at a panel, tapping it with his wrench. Well, guess I should take that as a compliment. It is more than that. It is fear. Others hear whispers of what you do. The galaxy is watching, Ethan frowned. Fear of me? Of us. Whispers across the stars far beyond Ethan's reach, the galaxy stirred. News traveled fast across trade routes and smuggler channels. Raiders who survived the first attack told wild stories of a human inside the ghost ship, bringing it back to life. At first, many dismissed it as rumor. But then came reports of strange energy spikes from the Forgotten Sector, sightings of fleeing scavengers, and fragments of communication logs. In the chambers of the Galactic Council, whispers grew louder. Representatives of dozens of alien races gathered in a great domed hall. They sat in a circle of light, each speaking in turn. The council had existed for thousands of years, guiding peace or at least balance across the stars. Now, unease filled the chamber. The Titanic Starship was crippled long ago, one alien delegate hissed. It should remain dead. Who dares awaken it? Another leaned forward, voice trembling. Reports confirm. A human is inside. He repairs it. The room fell into stunned silence. A third delegate, tall and scaled, let out a low growl. Humans? Impossible. They are too young, too primitive. They lack the knowledge to master such a relic. But they are unpredictable, another argued. They thrive where others fail. What if the rumors are true? What if the human succeeds? Fear rippled through the chamber. The council remembered history well. Humans had risen quickly in the galactic stage, surviving conditions no other species could. They adapted, endured, and expanded at a pace that unsettled many. Now, the thought of a human commanding the most powerful warship ever built was enough to make even the strongest empires uneasy. One elder voice spoke firmly. "If the Titanic Starship rises again under human command, the balance of power will collapse. We must act." Ethan learns the truth back aboard the ship. Ethan rested in a cabin the AI had prepared for him. The walls glowed with a soft blue light, and a bed of woven nanofibers supported his weary body. He stared at the ceiling. "So the galaxy knows what I'm doing, huh? That's not great." The AI's tone was calm. "Word spreads faster than light when fear carries it. The council debates even now. They fear me." "They fear you?" Ethan laughed bitterly. "That's crazy. I'm just a mechanic. I didn't ask for this. Fear is rarely rational. You are more than a mechanic now. You restored a fragment of my power. That alone shifts the galaxy's balance." Ethan sat up, rubbing his temples. "I don't want to shift balances, I just wanted to fix something broken." The AI responded with quiet certainty. "And in doing so, you awaken destiny." Unlocking the weapons despite the heavy words, Ethan kept working. He had started repairing not just the engines and power conduits, but also the ship's weapons. The AI insisted it was necessary. The first system he tackled was a gravity cannon, a weapon that bent space itself to crush targets. Its massive coils were cracked and rusted, but Ethan patched them with human alloys, improvising connectors where alien parts had corroded. When he finished, the AI tested it. A small asteroid drifting nearby was pulled into a glowing singularity and torn apart in seconds. Ethan stared wide-eyed. "That's terrifying. That is strength, and more lies waiting." Over time, Ethan activated energy shields, short-range drone fighters, and advanced sensors that mapped the stars in breathtaking detail. Each repair revealed new secrets, and with each success, the ship's personality seemed to grow warmer, more alive. Sometimes, Ethan almost felt like he was working with a partner, not a machine. The strike fleet, but the council did not stay idle. After weeks of debate, they sent a strike fleet. Not a massive army, but enough to test the rumors. A dozen warships, sleek and bristling with weapons, warped into the sector where the Titanic Starship drifted. Their commander, a veteran alien admiral, gave a single order: destroy the human. Destroy the ship before it fully awakens. Their weapons charged as they closed in. Inside, alarms blared. "Ethan," the AI warned, "they come." Ethan's heart pounded. He ran to the bridge, staring at the swarm of red markers on the display. "That's a fleet. We can't fight that. I haven't fixed half your systems yet. We fight with what we have. Trust me." Ethan gripped the controls, his hands shaking. He wasn't a soldier. He didn't know strategy. But the AI's calm voice steadied him. "Do as you always do, adapt, improvise, survive." The strike fleet fired first. Beams of energy slammed against the Titanic Starship's half-restored shields, making the walls tremble. Ethan flinched, gripping the console. "Shields won't hold forever," he shouted. "Then strike back. Use the gravity cannon." Ethan slammed the control. Outside, space warped. One enemy cruiser was pulled into the cannon's grip, its hull groaning before collapsing in a flash of fire. The alien fleet reeled in shock. They had expected a dead relic, not a weapon that still worked. Ethan's fear turned into adrenaline. Okay. What else can we hit them with?" "Drone Bay 4 is ready. Let's try it." He activated the bay, and a swarm of half-restored drones burst out, their engines flickering but functional. They darted toward the enemy ships, firing small plasma bursts. The aliens scrambled to defend, their formation breaking apart. One by one, Ethan fought back, guided by the AI's calm instructions. Improvised repairs held. Systems groaned but worked. Finally, the fleet broke. The survivors fled into the void, engines burning. The bridge fell silent except for Ethan's ragged breathing. He leaned back, his hands trembling. "I can't believe we just did that." "You did that," the AI said. "You stood against a fleet with scraps and courage. They will remember this." Ethan laughed weakly. "Yeah, and probably come back with something bigger." "Yes, they will, and we must be ready." The weight of power later. As Ethan walked the quiet corridors, he felt the weight of his choice pressing down. He hadn't meant to start a war. He just wanted to help. But now the galaxy saw him as a threat. He muttered to himself, What have I gotten into? The AI answered softly. Into history. You are no longer forgotten. You and I together are legend reborn. Ethan stopped, staring at the glowing walls. Legend? I'm just Ethan Cole, a mechanic from a nowhere outpost. And yet you command the Titanic Starship. The galaxy trembles because of you. He sighed, running a hand through his messy hair. I never wanted this, but you were chosen. By chance, by fate, by the stars, it does not matter. You are here, and together we will change everything. The stars above the dark sector burned quietly, unaware of the storm about to break. Ethan stood inside the command bridge of the Titanic Starship, the giant vessel that had become both his burden and his greatest ally. The ship's AI pulsed through the glowing consoles, a steady voice guiding him. Ethan, the AI whispered, calm yet filled with energy. The Coalition Armada is coming. Thousands of ships. They know we are alive again. Ethan tightened his grip on the console railing. He had been a mechanic, a man who fixed engines and patched up broken freighters. Now he was standing at the center of a war older and larger than humanity itself. Then we finish the repairs, Ethan said. His voice carried determination, though his heart pounded like a drum. If they want to destroy us, we'll show them what this ship was built to do. The AI's holographic form flickered before him, a figure of light, neither man nor woman, but something graceful and ancient. Together, Ethan, we will rise together. Awakening the sleeping giant for weeks, Ethan had worked endlessly. He crawled through ruined halls, reconnected energy conduits, and welded alien alloys that had not been touched for millennia. With each repair, the Titanic Starship felt more alive, as if it were breathing again after centuries of silence. Now, the final systems began to hum with power. Giant hangars opened, revealing swarms of drone fighters resting in deep stasis. Their sleek black forms shimmered with faint blue lines as power surged back into them. Massive cannons along the ship's hull awakened, their barrels stretching like limbs long asleep. Shields roared back to life, wrapping the vessel in glowing energy strong enough to shrug off volleys that would annihilate lesser ships. And in the very core of the ship, something far older, far more dangerous, stirred the planet-cracking gravity cannon. It had been sealed after the ancient war, hidden behind layers of locks. Only Ethan's persistence and creativity had allowed the AI to bring it online again. Systems restored to 89%, the AI reported. We are no longer a relic, Ethan. We are a force of the galaxy once more. Ethan stared at the star maps. The enemy was gathering, fleets from dozens of alien civilizations bound together by fear of the humans who had touched what they never dared. They're terrified, Ethan said quietly. Not just of the ship, of us, of what humans can do. Yes, the AI replied, and they will come with everything they have. The Coalition strikes. The Coalition Armada arrived like a storm of fire. Thousands of ships filled the void, sleek destroyers, wide carrier hulks, and living bioships grown in alien seas. Their light stretched across the black like a second galaxy, all aimed at one lonely giant. On the command deck, Ethan felt the weight of their presence. A message broke across open channels, cold and commanding. Human intruder. Abandon the derelict. You have trespassed on forbidden ground. Surrender and be spared. Ethan smirked, though sweat rolled down his neck. Spared after all this? Not likely. He looked at the AI. Let's answer them. The AI's voice echoed across the void, amplified by ancient alien technology that made it thunder in every ear. You call this ship a relic. You call it cursed. But today it is alive again. Today it has a commander. If you wish to test its power, then come. The Armada moved. Thousands of ships surged forward, weapons igniting the stars. Fire in the void. The first volleys slammed against the Titanic Starship. Plasma bursts, missile storms, and beams of pure light rained down. The shields blazed, bending but not breaking. The giant vessel trembled, its hulls vibrating with the fury of the attack. Shields at 70%, the AI reported calmly. Return fire, Ethan ordered. The ship answered with a roar. Cannons the size of towers spat beams of searing energy. Dozens of enemy cruisers vaporized instantly, their wreckage drifting as glowing ash. Drone fighters swarmed out of the hangars, darting like furious wasps, tearing into enemy formations with surgical precision. The Coalition fought back, but every strike against the Titanic Starship was answered with devastating force. Ethan guided the AI, suggesting human tricks, luring enemies into crossfire, using disabled ships as shields, feigning weakness to draw them closer. Your tactics are chaotic, the AI said in awe, but effective. No alien commander would think this way. Ethan grinned through the tension. That's the human way. Adapt, improvise, survive. The turning point hours passed in fire and destruction. The coalition had numbers, but the Titanic Starship had power. Yet even so, Ethan knew the battle could not last forever. Too many ships, too many guns. Even the strongest armor cracked under endless fire. The AI spoke softly. Ethan, the gravity cannon is ready. Ethan froze. He had seen its schematics, felt its ominous presence deep within the ship. It was not just a weapon. It was a monster capable of tearing entire worlds apart. If we use it, he whispered. They will remember, the AI replied. Forever. The coalition brought forward their flagships, massive vessels the size of cities glowing with ancient energy. They charged their ultimate weapons, beams strong enough to pierce stars. Ethan took a deep breath. His hands trembled. He was a mechanic, not a general, not a destroyer of worlds. But humanity had been underestimated for too long. Fire it, he said. The wrath of a titan. The Titanic Starship shuddered as the gravity cannon came alive. The core of the ship glowed like a newborn star, energy building until the air itself vibrated. Then, the cannon unleashed. A colossal beam, not of light, but of bending space itself, tore across the void. It struck the coalition's lead flagship. In an instant, the ship folded in on itself, crushed into a sphere no larger than a fist before exploding into nothing. The shockwave tore through nearby fleets, ripping smaller ships apart like paper. Silence followed, an awful, trembling silence as the galaxy's greatest armada realized what had just happened. Ethan gritted his teeth, staring at the destruction. He felt no joy, only the heavy weight of power in his hands. The AI's voice whispered, "They are broken. The armada will not hold." The retreat fear spread through the coalition like wildfire. Captains shouted over comms, some ordering retreat, others frozen in terror. Entire fleets pulled back, engines blazing, desperate to escape the wrath of the reborn giant. The Titanic Starship stood unchallenged, its cannons glowing, its drones returning victorious. Wreckage floated in endless silence, the remains of those who had dared to challenge it. Ethan leaned against the console, exhausted, sweat soaking his shirt. "It's over," he whispered. "At least for now." The AI flickered into view, its form glowing warmly. "You are no longer just a mechanic, Ethan Cole. You are the first commander of the Titanic Starship since the fall of the ancients. The galaxy will never forget this day." A new legacy later, as the ship drifted quietly among the stars, Ethan walked through its massive halls. He looked at the shining walls, the drone hangars, the endless corridors. This was no longer just an alien relic. It was his responsibility. He spoke aloud, though only the AI listened. "I never wanted this. I just wanted to fix engines, keep ships running. But now," the AI responded gently, "now you carry the future of your kind. With me, you can protect humanity, or you can rule the stars. The choice is yours." Ethan stopped and looked out a vast window, watching distant suns burn. He thought of Earth, of the scattered human colonies still struggling to survive. He thought of how the galaxy had mocked and underestimated his species. He clenched his fists. "We won't be forgotten. Not anymore. If they fear us, let them. If they respect us, even better. But humanity will stand." The AI glowed brighter, as if smiling. "Then together, Ethan, we will rise. Not as relics, not as survivors, but as legends." And in the silence of the void, the Titanic Starship drifted forward, reborn, unstoppable, a shadow and a light that would change the galaxy forever.